Hey guys, I got a very interesting question. I thought I would post it here, and I would be interested in your feedback to this question as well. A question from somebody who is a follower of Christ, and this is what they asked me. They said, do you think that you should tell the person that you're dating everything about your sexual past? Should the person that you're dating know everything about your sexual history? That's a great question, and that could bring up some really awkward conversations, right? So that's the question. Should you tell them or should you not tell them? Well, here's my answer. First of all, I think you need to look at what's the reason for dating. And in my mind, the reason for dating is to find a potential mate. So if your dating is serious enough to the fact that this is somebody that I could potentially marry, and we're trying to figure that out, then the answer to that question is yes. I think you need to be totally open and honest with each other. I think there needs to be full disclosure if you're in a serious dating relationship. If you're not in a serious dating relationship, then why are you dating? Okay, now that may not be a conversation that happens in the first 3 or 4 days, right? Okay, I'm getting that, but I think there will come a time in your relationship where you will need to have that conversation with each other. Because here's the thing: you're going to want to know the answer to that question for a future mate. Okay? Do you want your future mate to know everything about your past? Do you want to know everything about your future mate's past? To me, the answer is yes. Why? Why is it yes? Let me give you a few reasons why it's yes. Because Scripture teaches us that when people are married, they become one. So Genesis chapter 2 says, "For this reason, a man will leave his father and his mother and be united to his wife, and they will become one flesh." Talking about becoming one. And when you're married, you're becoming one. And you can't be one if you have a bunch of secrets with each other, okay? So if you're going to be one, I think there needs to be full disclosure on both sides of that. Now, there may be some conversations that are really awkward, and one party may say, I don't really need to know that, and so that's just cool. The general idea is just fine with me. I don't need real specifics, but a reason why is because you become one. Here's a second reason, is that there will be things in your future as you get married. There will be things in your future that will be affected by your past. And as hard as it is, the things in our past, which are forgiven by God when we ask Him to forgive us, that there are things in your past that will trigger things in your future. And if you don't know what some of those things are, you won't really understand. Case in point, not sexual history, but here's something that came in to our marriage, Steph and I. It took her a long time to trust me. We were married, and it was a full 10 years before she trusted me. Now, we had some very hard conversations, and she would look at me and say, but I feel like you could leave me. And I would say, I'm not leaving you. I'm not going anywhere. Our marriage is solid. I'm not taking off. But in her past was a broken marriage where her mom and her dad were together for 10 years. Okay, that was in her past, and she brought that into our marriage. This is a natural part of her past. And so because I knew that, I was able to understand that in a little bit different way. The same thing is going to be true if you bring a sexual history into your marriage, that there may be some things that people deal with because those memories are still there or whatever. And that's just going to help you out if you know those in the past. So that's another reason why. One reason why is Scripture. Another reason why is there are future things that will trigger some things in the past. And the third thing is, if you don't give full disclosure to each other, then where's the line? Okay, so let's say husband and wife get married, and then in 3 or 4 years after you're married, you find out that your husband had spent time in jail for dealing in drugs. Well, you go ballistic. You didn't tell me this. I didn't know this. And your husband could rightly say, well, hey, there are things about you that I don't know. And you say, yeah, but they're not as big as that. Well, where's the line? Where's the line? And if you're going to be one flesh, I think it's full disclosure. And I think the more serious you get about your relationship, the more serious the questions can get with each other. Yeah. So that's the why. How about the how? Like, how do you really have those conversations? Because those are kind of difficult to have. When you get to the right time in the relationship, and you'll have to determine what that right time is, I think somebody in the relationships needs to say, this is especially true for people who are in adult years, they've gone through a marriage or two, or whatever, or maybe even for younger people that have some history that they not real happy with, but they've got some stuff that they're bringing into the marriage. I think at some point in the marriage, or at some point in the relationship, you need to say, here are some things that you should know. here's some things that you should know about me. There are things I'm ashamed of. There are the things I didn't like. The things, I'm not saying I'm proud of these, but here's some things that you should know. And then I would say those things, and then I would ask this dangerous question: what else do you want to know about me? That's pretty serious. Now that needs to go two ways. Okay, both people need to answer that, and realize this: as you're saying those things to the other person, you're not confessing them. Okay, you're not, because some people would say, like, how many times do I have to confess these sins? No, 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 you're not confessing those sins. You can, because if God took care of those and you've confessed those to Christ, He's forgiven those. You're not saying I did this and now I'd like you to forgive me. You're just saying, hey, here's what I did. I'm not proud of it. God has forgiven me of it, but you just need to know that's in my past, and so that's a little bit of who I am now, because who we are now is part of who we used to be. Okay, so you may bring that in. So here's some things that you should know. And I would say, what do you want to know about me? Ask anything else that you want to know. And here's a caution though, especially when it comes to sexual history. You don't need to go into all the intimate details. Okay, there may be some points where you need to, but you may not need to go into all the intimate details. And I don't know what the purpose of all of that would be or would not be, and you're just going to have to kind of play that out as you go. But for me, I would always fault to full disclosure. If you're in a serious relationship leading towards marriage, I would always point to full disclosure. You're an open book. You should have absolutely no secrets from each other at all. And what will happen after you have those types of conversations, I think you would be surprised by the amount of freedom that you feel, by the amount of acceptance that you feel from the other person, and to be honest with you, by the amount of emotional intimacy that you'll feel. Because I think God designed us to live with each other without a whole lot of secrets. So my answer to the question is yes, I would. If you're in a serious relationship heading towards marriage, full disclosure on each side. Thanks for your questions. Put your any responses you have down on underneath on the comment section, or right down underneath the video on Facebook. Thanks.